Okay, welcome back to another episode of What If History Restarted. This is episode 68 now. Last time we saw some stuff, such as the expansion of the Upwards Arrow Alliance by a little bit. And then we saw a war over here, and we saw these guys, these Latvian fascists, gain another new puppet state over here in Scandinavia. And also some other stuff like this African rebellion and this African rebellion. So, yeah. Anyway, we're actually going to kind of be mirroring the first event of last episode with the first event of this episode. That the Upwards Arrow Alliance is actually gaining another new member. And this one is surprising. It is actually going to be Sri Lanka. Oh, that is not an arrow. But Sri Lanka obviously doesn't seem like the type of country to be joining in on this. In fact, I believe that they were previously ruled by Bengal, the Bengali Empire, which was like part of Korea and China's alliance, old alliance at least. So you might think like, oh, why would this formerly subjugated area want to join? Thing is, these guys actually were treated pretty well under the control of the Bengali Empire, which I believe looked something roughly like this. If you're new here, blam. They were actually treated pretty well under the control of this thing, and also it was their most prosperous time and all that. It was their most successful time and everything. So they're going to be joining the Upper Zero Alliance to hopefully try and bring those times back and become good and healthy again, and not like in crippling poverty. That's probably how they are right now. But with that, the Upwards Arrow Alliance is now 4 members strong. And I mean, 2 of those members aren't really contributing too much, but it's something. Anyway. So, back in episode 66, 2 episodes ago, we saw the conversion of the Cross Alliance from economic to military, making them a lot tighter knit of an alliance and also a lot scarier. And this has caused some trouble over here, particularly in these 3 Octagon Alliance countries. All 3 of these countries are like right on the border of Golden Horde and whatever you would call this thing. And so because of that, they are all a little bit scared now of the military alliance being right next to them. And they're like, hey guys, we should make the Octagon Alliance a military alliance. And now, Baikal is the leader of the alliance, and they wouldn't be too opposed to that. However, obviously that would make tensions a whole lot worse and could lead to World War II. So, they don't want to do that fully yet, at least. But these 3 countries are very willing to do so, and they would really want it to be a military alliance. There's also probably some other countries, like I would assume that Hokkaido, or whatever you would call this thing, North Japan, Manchuria, I don't know. But whatever this thing is, they would also probably want this as a military alliance, because they're kind of scared of Korea. And yeah. So because of that, we now have some calls for the Octagon Alliance to become military as well. However, they have not done anything yet. Anyways, where haven't we touched up on a while? Well, I guess we can go over to North America and or South America. Because over here we have this one fascist country down in South America. They started out pretty small. They've expanded a great amount. All the other countries are still a little bit scared of them, but not fully. And they have actually calmed down with their expansion, and the government has actually kind of eased down. They aren't really fascist anymore. They're still not exactly good guys, but they're not full-on fascist anymore. So that's something, at least. They're starting to become like an actual normal country. Up here, in this little Bolivian, or is that even really, I guess it's kind of Bolivian, because like, the capital's in Chile, but like, but anyway, these guys, we're gonna give them another city, because I feel bad. These guys are very small and very weak and very unstable. I believe they're probably, yeah, they're definitely all one religion. However, they are kind of dying because they're starving to death. Because this country is extremely poor and the quality of living is very bad. They've been ravaged by war and they are barely holding on. Now they actually are asking to unite with with like literally anyone. Like they would take this country joining this country, take joining this country, and they would take joining Peru. However, Peru has no interest to do so, and neither does Chile, because both of these countries are pretty strong, and accepting in this really weak area would not benefit them at all, and it would just force them to have to focus on improving this area, and they would not want to do that because no, that's not really their problem. So neither of these countries are interested at all. The only country that is somewhat interested is over here in the Egyptian country, which kind of has like two parallel lines. That's something. I mean, they're not perfectly parallel, but they're almost there. But joining this guy could be good because this country is pretty powerful, so they could probably spare, the resources to improve this area. And most importantly, it would also give them direct access to the Pacific Ocean, so they would no longer have to go through the Drake Passage, which is not a very fun place to travel through. I mean, I guess they could also be going through the Panama Canal, or whatever its equivalent is. I'm sure there's some equivalent to it now. Maybe it's the Nicaragua Canal now. But yeah, actually, it could probably just be the Panama Canal. It's just where this border is. That would be pretty cool. I'm gonna say that's canon. That's where the Panama Canal is, right on this border. But anyway, even that is very costly and inefficient. So it would be a whole lot easier just to go through here. Unfortunately, this country has a little bit of a reputation for being like scary. Honestly, they really haven't even done anything that bad, but they've just expanded like a little too much and gotten a little bit too big. And some other countries in South America, especially the Aero Economic Alliance, are pretty scared of their expansion. And now they have been improving relations, but they're still not exactly allies with these guys. They're still a little bit distrusting of them. It's not like before when they were like fully like they're gonna kill us, but like they're still a little bit afraid of them. So because of that, when two countries actually have talks about uniting, these guys up here are like, whoa, that's not cool, we're gonna kill you. And then, yeah. The thing is, though, because of this, the application for unification or whatever is going to be rejected, and that is meaning that this country is still independent. However, that is going to make some people in this country very upset, because some people really just can't take it anymore. Especially over in this city, which is honestly possibly the poorest major city in the world. And so because of that, you're going to see a rebellion pop up in this city because these guys are just fed up with their government, and they're going to be wanting to forcefully join the Uruguay Empire over here. That's what I'm going to call it. But anyway, this rebellion goes pretty successfully, and eventually Bolivia's like, alright guys, we're literally just donating some land over to these guys. And so because of that, Bolivia, or this empire, will still be getting its land. However, they would probably, ideally, obviously, they would want all of it, but really they would still definitely want this major city. Thing is, though, that's still too much expansion for these guys to handle. So literally all these guys are going to be able to take is this horrible little border gore peninsula panhandle thing. I'm really sorry, but this is going to look terrible. They're going to swoop all the way over here, all the way to the ocean. And yeah, that is not a pleasant sight to look at. However, it is what they want. But to be fair, they actually could probably just make a deal with this country either way, so actually we don't have to make it that bad. We can take this off. We can also just take this off because that still looks bad. So, also I guess the city was actually the one rebelling, so, yeah, I kind of just completely reworked the peace treaty here, but, yeah. So so just to recap, you got this country that was poor, and then these areas rebelled because they wanted to join this team. This team then took those areas, and they are also now making a deal with this country so that they can access the sea, and in exchange they will give them some support. So that is the final agreement. And everyone is somewhat happy, I guess. The military or the economic alliance up here, they're also considering converting to military alliance. However, they feel like that would just build up tensions. South America is kind of tense, but it's definitely not as tense as Asia over here, which is literally like they could blow each other up whenever. However, it's more just like, they're a little bit scared of this country, and they all kind of don't like Peru because they killed a bunch of native people and burnt down a ton of the Amazon. So, yeah. So these guys are not going to become a military alliance, they decide. And some people, the stronger countries are fine with that, like, Colombia and the Brazilian ones. But, like, Venezuela and especially this one are a little bit scared now because, this one's like, oh, but Peru's going to gobble me up. And Venezuela is just like, oh, well, if we get in a civil war, then you guys better be supporting me. But, yeah. Anyway, moving up to the Caribbean, where not a lot has been happening, we are going to see that something is going to happen. What is this country? There's just a magical country here. There's literally nothing. Like tolerance, we have to, even if we bring it to 30%, the only close country is the Himalayan one. Oh, and also these guys up there. But yeah, okay, there's apparently just a random 3-pixel country over here. Oh, I guess that's canon now. Come on. No, cities. Bam. Okay, I guess we have a new smallest country. Literally 3 pixels. I didn't know that was there. Alright, well, anyway, that's actually kind of close to what I was about to do. Because over here in this country, it's a very, actually kind of corrupt country. Like, this island is kind of hoarding all the resources from themselves and not giving a lot to these islands. So eventually they're going to split up, and these islands are all going to get their independence. But this one apparently already was independent. I genuinely did not know about that. It was definitely a mistake, but we're keeping it because that's funny. Their capital will probably be in the middle here. Although we do see that this one down in the south will actually, let's look at the religion map. Okay. Yeah, they're all the same ethnicity, actually, all the way up. So we're gonna give this island over to Venezuela, because that's fun. Anyway. These guys are still definitely pretty angry about losing their land. Since they've already unionized before, they're considering unionizing with the other Scandinavian country into whatever that would be. However, that really isn't something that these guys want. They want to be independent. They don't really care about this guy. Anyway, we're looking up to this big country in the north here. These guys really haven't done a lot this whole series, and they're a pretty diverse country because they have some of the dark blue area, which is more like actual like Europeans, like colonizer Europeans. Then they have the pink ethnicity, which comes all the way down here to the Middle East. Obviously, by this point, it's a pretty fairly different ethnic group, but like it still is kind of similar in a way, sort of. So yeah, that's, I believe, where their capital is. Yes. But then they have a ton of like this native ethnic northern group up here. So that doesn't really settle too well. Because some of the northern people definitely want their independence. And these guys are a little bit... The dark blue people are a little bit more okay with being here. Because, well, first of all, there's just not that many people here anyway. They do already have their own country right here. However, some of these people actually just rather wanted to stay in this country as a little union between the dark blue and the pink ethnicities. However, as I was saying, the northern areas are a little bit different because these guys, they do not want to be they do not want to be part of this country. There's also some of these people over here in these two countries, well, Finland and whatever you would call this guy. They actually have like almost 2 major cities, although that seems kind of unrealistic, so let's just push them out a little bit. Blammo. Schlammo. Yeah, okay. That seems good. But anyway, the main ethnic, the main part. Okay, the most amount of the ethnic group is in this country. Finally got it out. So we see not full-on rebellions, but we see a lot of like little revolts, and also some just general calls for independence. Eventually, this country, which is pretty weak, not that strong, is going to cave in, and they're going to be giving these people their independence. So it's too similar. Yeah, it's probably going to be too similar. Actually, kind of works. Maybe. So we're going to be seeing a whole lot of this northern group become independent. Do not see, technically not all of it is independent, because, these guys still wanted their coast over here. They also managed to secure these islands for themselves, which is a little bit weird looking, but it's okay. Just do this and this. Oh, not that. They do not claim the ocean. Blam. These guys don't have any major cities, so we're just going to give them one. Do it over here, I guess. So yeah, that is most of their people free. As for the ones that are not over in them yet, well, those ones are gonna probably just start moving over to their motherland. So, wait, how should I do this? Oh yeah, obviously just blammo and slammo. Oh wait, no, that doesn't work either. Religion, and then we go like this. Hold on, we'll figure this out in a second. Okay, there we go. So now that all those guys have moved over here, thankfully we're past the time of full-on just constant genocide. So, they just actually peacefully moved over here. So now most of these guys are in their homeland, or a homeland themselves. They even get away with a small area of the pink ethnicity. There's like 5 people that live there, and they're okay with it, so it's all good. Of course, there is still some small ethnic groups of their people over in these 2 countries, Estonia and Blue Guy. However, those people here are mostly content with being in these countries because they're doing pretty well economically. I mean, they are a little bit scared that they're in the Cross Alliance, which is, possibly the harbinger of the apocalypse, but hopefully that doesn't get too bad. Anyway, though, we're going to a pretty scary event over here, because it's going to happen in, like, Central Asia. I know in our timeline we call Central Asia, like, roughly, like, this area, but, like, this is, like, true Central Asia, actually in the middle. And these 3 countries, or actually 4 countries, as I just established earlier in the episode, these 3 countries are all pretty scared of Golden Horde, and also this country. It was kind of like acting on behalf of Golden Horde. And this country is also pretty angered by them being so scared, because they're like, oh, come on, dude, we're not going to hurt you, we're not going to hurt you, little boy, we're not going to hurt you, little buddy. But anyway, these 3 countries are so on edge and scared of the Cross Alliance now that they've become a military alliance. That literally the second that they see any of these guys' troops come on this border, they get a little bit antsy, because all this country's doing right now is literally just doing a training exercise in a camp they have over here for their military. However, though, as soon as this country's spies, which are also in this country, see that the military is coming, they are terrified. And so we see a small militia of some people from a small village over here, and well, probably a few villages. They all come together, and some stupid people, to be honest, they're kind of stupid, come over here into this country and get into a little fight with the military of this country, and that's not good. However, so this is a pretty big crisis, because technically you could say that the Cross Alliance was just under attack, because a few soldiers of this country actually did die in the skirmish. However, Cross Alliance is a little bit, well, they're not that stupid, and they know that, like, they probably don't want to start World War III, or World War II, I mean, over that. And I'm running out of battery here. But, so, Golden Horde's like, whoa, let's slow down there, buddy, because this country is the most, angered by this, and they're saying, like, okay, Cross Alliance, we should actually invade them now. obviously the Cross Alliance does not want to do that. It's kind of mostly just them that want to do it. However, some of the other members of the Cross Alliance, mainly just like all of them really, are definitely a little bit angry at this country. It's not really their fault since it was just some random people in a little local militia, but the others don't care. Just make that octagon look a little better. But yeah, so because of that, we have a little skirmish here, which is eventually, negotiated and no war breaks out. However, things are definitely a little bit more on edge now because Cross Alliance is definitely pretty angry at the Octagon Alliance in this country. A little bit angry at these guys because they also, there's maybe like 3 or 4 soldiers from this country that died, and there's probably a good 20 people of this country's militias that died. So, they're kind of saying like that was unfair. You should have just imprisoned them or something, or you should have just sent them back to our country so we could deal with them to imprison them, not just execute them yourself. Yeah. And the rest of the Octagon Alliance agrees with this country, and is pretty mad at the Cross Alliance. So no war, but everyone is a little bit more angry at each other, which is, they're already pretty angry at each other, so that's not good. Yeah. Anyway, because of this, the Diamond Alliance, who actually really has not been that relevant, they're going to come together and make a statement here, because they're mostly aligned with the Octagon Alliance, and they're going to fully back up and support the Octagon Alliance in this little controversy, and say that this was, not anyone, that the Cross Alliance has no reason to be mad at the Octagon Alliance, since it was just local militias and not in government order, and, the executing of way more troops than were deserved. So, or just people that deserved, I guess, because they weren't really troops, they were just kind of angry mobs of people crossing the border illegally. But anyway, the Diamond Alliance is, as I said, fully supporting the Octagon Alliance, and by now it's pretty clear that the Diamond Alliance is completely in support of the Octagon Alliance and do not like the Cross Alliance. There might as well just be one alliance, really, the Octagon and the Diamond. The only difference is that, Octagon still aren't a military alliance, and these guys are a military alliance. So, yeah. World is a little bit more on edge, but nothing bad has happened yet. We do also want to talk about the Circle Alliance. The pink team kind of did that whole thing last episode. The rest of the Circle Alliance is kind of mad at them for that, so they're getting kicked out. Because a lot of the people of these cities are like, oh, we shouldn't be letting this warmongering country in our alliance. So, yeah. As we can see, the Circle Alliance is falling pretty fast. If you remember going all the way back, we had Egypt and the Omani kingdoms that eventually united into Oman. And then Egypt, Oman, and this country, the Sinai, I guess, or actually I could call it Jordan. But yeah, Egypt, Jordan, and Oman united into one country, but only for 2 episodes, because then World War I happened and they got obliterated. However, Egypt, Jordan, and Oman are still very close allies, so they made their Circle Alliance just kind of, continue that alliance, and also just to, include more and become richer and all that. But obviously it has not gone too well. So, we have Egypt, Jordan, and Oman, who I've been talking about, and the other 2 countries that remain are this country, which was literally just a former territory of Oman, plus a little bit of the Red Empire, or the Red Team Empire that was added in. So these guys are kind of just Oman 2.0. And then the actual Red Team, obviously the Red Team was the Egypt, Jordan, and Oman's biggest enemy, but then they lost World War I, they got their new government and all that, so now they're peaceful. However, some of the people here are still definitely not too liking of these countries, and especially the other way around. A lot of people from these countries still do not like the Red Team. That's causing a lot of tension, and seeing how the Circle Alliance is kind of failing anyway, the people of the Red Team are like, why are we even still supporting them? Because, that's kind of sad and pathetic. So, because of that, the Red Team is officially going to leave as well, which is a little bit scary. The Blue Team and the Red Team still hate each other. That's just because they've literally, it's the Red Team and the Blue Team. These are the 2 countries that have existed since the first episode, and have always been each other's enemy. So, that's why. Other than that, though, the red team has mostly made amends with like every other country, other than Egypt, Jordan, Oman, and I guess this one. Probably Persia doesn't really like them either, but for the most part, they've made amends. They're actually pretty well aligned with Tuscany and the rest of the Square Alliance, and even kind of and even kind of the Hexagon Alliance, even though the Hexagon Alliance doesn't like the Square Alliance, but oh well. So, Red Team's doing pretty good for themselves, just being independent and not being in any alliance, so that's what they're going to do, and it's going pretty well for them. So with that, we just have these four countries left, and as I said, three of these were previously united together, so yeah, and then one was literally just kind of part of that thing too. It just kind of got like created from a bit of that empire plus a little bit from another foreign empire added in. So really, it's kind of just been reduced back to the Union that we saw pre World War One. And so because of that, things are a little awkward here now because well, there are four countries, and they literally have done nothing. They are not going to dissolve the alliance. They consider it. They do not do it. They do want to keep this going, but it's definitely not looking too good for the Circle Alliance. Anyway, how long has this video been? This video's been 26 minutes. I feel like I just started. What? Literally, what even happened? Had the oh yeah, I guess we had like all the stuff in the Americas, and then we had the upwards arrow, and then we had the border skirmish, and then we had that, and then we have this. So actually, I guess that was a pretty long episode. I didn't even realize. Wow. Okay, but anyway, just to wrap up this episode with the thing I was planning. Over here in Tuscany, the nukes, they've been working on their nukes for a while, and they are essentially finished. They're not like fully 100% ready to use, but like they're almost there. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Like, this is the progress bar, and they're like up here. Like it is pretty much done. If they really wanted to use them, like they could probably go ahead and nuke Catalonia if they wanted to right now. But obviously, they're not going to do that. So yeah, the nukes themselves are finished. It's just like the deployment of them and the firing and dropping of them that they're still kind of trying to figure out. But they're done with like the actual bombs. So that's a little bit scary for the rest of the world. But yeah. And with that, this is the new map. Tensions could not be higher. And that is the end of this episode.